Hello, welcome again to this very American book tag. This is the first book tag that I have been tagged on, so another milestone, another historic moment on this channel. And yeah, it's the Rootin Tootin, um, which is basically a book tag about westerns, I guess, because of the booktube event during the range, in which several booktubers are reading westerns. And yeah, before even getting to the questions, I'm gonna say I have never read a western. I have watched like endless western movies, but I have never read a western. So just in case someone is about to leave the video before I keep talking, if you know a western that I should read, write it on the comments, and the one that's said the most, or if there's only one, that one, I will basically read the western that I read on the comments. I will read one western from the comments, and I will read it before June ends because of June on the range. So, yeah, without further ado, let's get started with the questions. I was tagged by Mark at Book Time with Elvis, and Steve Donoghue was the one who started this tag. So I don't know who I will be tagging, but I guess you can check that on the description. So number one, away southwest. Have you ever been to the American West? No, I have not. The main reason why I haven't is because every time I had a chance to go, I had a chance to go for like a week. And for me, there are certain countries and certain places that, I mean, most of the places that I want to go to, which are most of the places on Earth, for me, deserve more than a week. And this is one of them, but I'm planning to live in the US for a year after I finish uni, so next year approximately, because I have a few things that I need to do, and the US seems to be one of the best places to do them. So I will be in the American West, but I haven't. Dry Galk. What's the smallest town you've ever visited? How small is your town right now? So my town right now is it's small, but it's not really, because it's on the outside of London, so you get all the downsides of being on a city. It's called Egham. It's very near Windsor. And actually, I go running to Windsor pretty much every week. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. There's no need to come here for anything unless you are at university. But the smallest town I've ever been, that's a harder one, because there is a moment when towns get so small that there's no difference. I've been in incredibly small towns in Slovenia, in Estonia. I've been very small towns as well in like Mexico on the countryside. And I don't remember most of the names of these places. I was in Frius. Oh no, Frius is not so small in Dominican Republic. I think the smallest town is probably just where I'm from in Galicia, because Galicia is on the northwest of Spain, and it's a beautiful place, quite big, and also in the peninsula probably the most remote. And it used to be full of villages and farms, and now all of these villages are basically ghost villages. So in terms of even though the buildings are there, the town sometimes doesn't have a single person living there. So you can go there and just see these empty places and even live there. Some of them have been like occupied by like hippie communes and stuff like that. It's quite cool, but yeah, those are very small. Also, I'd say pretty much anytime I've been sort of like trekking or climbing, in Slovenia particularly, you would get to like a mountain hut that had like two houses next to it, and they would call it a town, but it was really just like 15 people and all from the same family, so that will also count. I'm trying to remember the names, but I just can't. I don't remember the names. The only proper town that I remember names of are in Yorkshire when I was hiking in North England. Appleby, for example, is a very nice, beautiful town. There's a huge event happening once a year where like basically gypsies from all over the world go there with their horses, and I don't really know what's about, but it's a very small town that for a day has a very big population of people from all over the world, and that tends to be a really cool thing when it happens. Also in La Palma, you have another town called Tijarafe, and pretty much all the northwestern side of that island in the west of Canary Islands is really cool because there's a crack on the volcano, so it's really hard to get there. So every town there is pretty much always full of very interesting people from all over the world that just went there to sort of like chill and be away from authority, but also not many people. That's so those are my smallest towns. Maybe yeah, I think I haven't given a very definitive answer, but I have give many. So you pick your favorite. So where the buffalo roam. Do you have any evidence that you live near coyotes? No, I don't think there's coyotes in England. I think the biggest predator might be hawks. But I have never seen coyotes either. But I grew up with a wolf, with a dog, an African wolf, a dog half African dog wolf. It's from my grandfather. He was a fisherman and he brought it from Africa, and it was a very interesting animal. It was definitely not a dog. It was definitely not a dog. And I was like I just grew up with so many dogs that I was obsessed with canines in general. And one of my one of the stepfathers that I had on my childhood um, lived in a house in the mountains in Galicia, and it was just next to the forest. So I hiked a couple of kilometers away from that house and built a platform. And sometimes I would sleep there, and I saw wolves there. So I have seen wolves, not coyotes though. What's your history with westerns, novels, TV, books? Uh, yeah, so I haven't read any western novels. Yeah, I know, but I haven't. TV neither. I mean, like Breaking Bad is kind of a western, and definitely El Camino is a film, a western film. I'd say that probably the thing that introduced me into westerns was probably Tarantino, because he loves westerns, and he's such a popular director that probably it might have been him. I generally have always liked westerns, and because my favorite actor as a kid was Clint Eastwood. I watched all his westerns. But yeah, I don't have a big history. My history with westerns might be just about to start this June. Who knows? Number 5. Diamond Lil al the Royal to Saloon. I'm not getting most of these references right away, but you know, I'll Google them afterwards and maybe I'll expand my Western culture. What's your relationship with alcohol? Oh, I copied this, but I just don't remember them. What's your relationship with alcohol? Have you ever had a friendship with a bartender? So my relationship with alcohol right now is very good. I pretty much don't drink alcohol. I do in events when I feel like, but generally I only drink like wine or beer when I'm with a few friends and I'm feeling like it. It wasn't always like that. So I've been living alone since I was 15, and being independent when you're 15 means having many responsibilities and freedoms that should not be given to someone so young. And from 16 to 18, I would have tequila for breakfast with other substances. So I think I was pretty much an alcoholic, and but that's that's not it anymore. In terms of bartenders, I mean, I have been a bartender. Some of the most important people in my life have been or are bartenders. So yeah, like I mean, that's yes, I have had friendships with bartenders and family and everything. Yeah, many memories come to mind. Too many for this tag. The city's liquor from back east. What do you consider the best western you ever read? Okay, I haven't read any westerns, as I said, but to play into this question, I'm just gonna talk about films that I really like, that I consider westerns. The first one, because I said that Tarantino sort of like introduced me into westerns, I think of Once Upon a Time in the West. I think of Django. Once Upon a Time in the West, because by searching the reference of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that film showed me the Once Upon a Time in the West, and I loved it. Django is a western from Tarantino, so I did really enjoy that one. Um, Nomadland is for me, that I would say that is a western, and I also loved it. Yeah, El Camino. I mentioned Breaking Bad before. El Camino is really good. Mm, Obviously, with Clint Eastwood as well, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Like for me, that is an amazing film. Maybe a bit slow at times, but just really really good. In terms of the worst, because when I think of the worst western, one comes to mind. But when I think of the best, none, like I couldn't make a case for this because this might be one of the types of I just don't know. But like in terms of the worst film, western film, I think it's The Revenant by DiCaprio, and I am a huge fan of DiCaprio. But I think The Revenant is the worst film, the worst western I've seen probably. So yeah, I leave that there. And yeah, The Assassination of Jesse James. That's a western that came not long ago, and I just think that is so special. There is something to that western that I haven't seen in others. Obviously, the scenery, the photography, and everything is just beautiful, but there is just like there's just something to like the severity with which actions are perpetrated and guns are portrayed. Guns feel heavier on that film. If you haven't seen The Assassination of Jesse James, which I wouldn't be surprised because it wasn't very popular when it came out, especially for the production and the quality of that film, it could have been much more popular. I totally recommend that film. It's so good. Yeah, so what is the next question? Yeah, The Man with the Badge. Have you ever been in charge of other people? What's the most authority you've ever handled? Would you be good at it? I have always been in charge of other people. Like as a kid, I was basically my sister's father, and in school as well, I was always in charge of stuff. Like never official stuff because I didn't like my teachers didn't like me. But if I've always been in charge of things I can talk about and things I cannot talk about. Not all of them were legal, but in terms of the things I can talk about, in terms of jobs, for example, in the scuba diving world, since I had any knowledge of scuba diving and I was considered a professional, I automatically became. I was in charge of the boat and everything. In every job I've had, even when I wasn't given a position of authority, authority would just come to me because managers and people in position of authority very often will be there for other reasons rather than their skill at it. And when they see someone that just knows what they're doing and knows how to behave as a leader, they will just like sort of delegate. So for free and not always to my not always because I wanted, but because I had to. I have always been in charge in pretty much in every job I had. I'd say that probably sports wise, probably diving is the reason why diving is probably like the position of most authority, because when you are diving you have like other people's lives in your hands, like to a degree that no other sport gives you, because people under the water become genuinely children. They have no control, even those that think they have like 99% of divers that consider themselves experienced. To someone like me, to like a proper professional of scuba diving, they are just children under the water. They have no control, no way of sometimes they even lose memory, like they just don't know the thing that you told them 5 minutes ago. They're completely unable to move, or yeah, completely unreliable. So I'd say that under the water scuba diving is probably the biggest authority I've ever had, and the most also the most critical kind. But it's something I always run away from, and it keeps coming back to me. Like now I've been offered a position of management in a different place, and I want to turn it down, but it's good money, but at the same time I'm not here for the money, and here I mean here in this world, but and you know, every time someone offers you money in a position of authority, it tends to come with a lot of your time and attention in exchange, and I value that much more. So yeah, it's a bit of a pain in the ass. But to the question, would you be good at it? I say yes, like absolutely. It's just it's I don't know if it's because so many people is so bad at it, but I just pretty much have never like I know some examples, but I just have never seen someone that does it so naturally. Obviously, not in every context, because I think that the most important thing is to know in which things are you qualified to have that authority, and in which situations you are not. But what I am, yeah, absolutely. The Tombstone kid. Have you ever fired a gun, been a gun aficionado, been shot? Well, I have never fired a gun in the Western sense, but I was forced to fire a hunting gun as a kid multiple times. Never to animals, I would never do that. But yeah, one of my stepparents, my sister's father, forced me to fire a gun when I was a kid. Yeah, I'm not a gun aficionado, I'm pretty much against them. To be against them doesn't mean that if I could have one, I would, because I don't trust people, right? And what I was aficionado is weapons aficionado. I did martial arts for 10 years, and I was into katanas and archery and many other kinds of weapons that I feel are much more interesting, because when you use a gun that is not a weapon that is not a firearm, you truly feel the weight of your actions if you use it, right? So it's I feel like the world would be much better if we didn't have any fire guns and we just had to use our hands. I think that killing would regain its its severity. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. And last question. It ain't the bullet that gets you, it's the fall. How would you ideally like to cash in your chips? So by that question, I assume that you are asking me, how would I like to die? I had a chance to look at the Book Time with Elvis's video and Steve Donaghy's video, and I have to agree in terms of I would like to die late, and ideally I thought at the beginning, like when Mark was saying that he would like to just see the end, like to be the last of his friends, the last person he knows, to truly feel alone in this world, like to just see the end of things before leaving. I think that is, I can totally empathize with that. And I can totally empathize as well with what Steve was saying about just like on my sleep, probably if everything can be settled and I can prevent it better so that no one has to suffer once I'm gone. But I also agree with that. However, I think I wouldn't mind. I'm not saying I want to, because I am not sure about this. This question is very complicated. A few years ago I would say that I would love to be just eaten by animals, like to die maybe on a hike, trying to get through who knows the Amazon, and then be eaten by whatever, just so that I don't know, like I just like the idea of sort of like going back and giving back to with my body to the nature without having to be sort of like on a lab for med students. But I don't really care about that and so much about what happens to my body afterwards. What I do care is about what happens during the time I'm dying. I think I want to know that I am dying. I think I want to come to terms with death and make sure that my only fear, like I've never feared death itself, but I've always feared regret. Like the way I live my life is in a way that whenever that happens, I don't have to regret. I thought I was gonna die about a year ago, and I didn't have any regret, and that changed me in a different way. It didn't change my behavior because I realized that I was doing things well. Because if I thought I was gonna die and I was happy with it and I was fine, not happy with it. I am way too young. I have way too many things that I want to do, but I didn't have any regret. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I would like to face that one more time before I die. I probably, just to make sure that from now and hopefully a long time, by then I definitely would like to die very old. Although I've always thought that I will die young because I do too many risky things. But if I could choose, I would definitely like to die very old and to see it coming, and to look at it in the eye and to say, "Fuck you! I don't wanna die, but I don't regret my life, so I can die." Which are actually very different things, the way I see it at least. Or to choose to go, because if I wasn't gonna have that kind of death, or if I was gonna be just like agonizing for forever, I would definitely take death on my own terms. Again, in all of these cases, we are talking, if it's up to me, very far away. I'm doing my best to survive these years. I'm doing my best to survive this this part of my life. But yeah, that's all. I don't know who I'm gonna tag. I think this is a really cool tag. Steve said that this is the kind of questions that he would be asking if you were there to High Cottage talk with him. Maybe I should go because this is definitely quite a tag. I love doing this, and yeah, you will know if I tagged you because you will be in the description. Have a nice day.